Hello everybody. Going live for Tuesday Talks with a fantastic entrepreneur this time called Patrick. I won't even try to pronounce his surname, but I'll have a go. Egu. I'll ask him what it is. But yes, we are going live for Tuesday Talk with a fantastic entrepreneur. In the meantime, as usual, I shall post a comment and pin it. I see you, Patrick. Let me get you back up there. So what I do now is I help everybody who is looking to become an entrepreneur or start their business, or things like, or stuck in their dead end role, to help them fire their bosses before, it's an amazing feeling if you are able to fire your boss. So let me just get Patrick on. I've done the introduction already. That Patrick is an amazing entrepreneur, starting businesses from ground up, and he has a transportation company and a also. Hey, Patrick, how are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm very good. Yourself?
Amazing. I'm great. Busy day, but we have to do what we have to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I've done your introduction already. I had a go at pronouncing your surname, so you tell me what it is.
Yeah, it's Egwu.
Egwu?
Egg as in egg, and then woo as in W-U. So Egwu.
Okay. So
yeah.
Patrick Egwu.
Exactly.
Amazing. So hopefully I said it correctly. I'm not even too sure now, but
Yeah.
we are with you.
It's okay. Close enough. 98%. So that's good.
I'll take that. That's better. That's good for me anyway.
Yeah.
I'm a person who struggles with names anyway. It's something which, even though I would know people's name, it will be like, oh, what was your name again? I'm that kind of person who know you already, but then not ask the name already if it's a name that I've not been used to. So I've done your introduction already, Patrick, but obviously you're the best person to do your own introduction as well. So we'll start by asking, if you just introduce yourself and let us know who you are and why do you do what you do?
My name is Patrick Egwu. I own a company here in the UK in London called Patrick Egwu Transportation. We serve all the London airports. We provide, if you need to be picked up from any of the airports and taken into London or anywhere in the UK, we can provide that service. I have 27 drivers in my fleet, including myself. And we also take people into France. So my company is named after me, Patrick Egwu Transportation. If you just type the name in Google, you would see the online profile we have and we've built over the past few years of trading. We've been trading now for almost 8 years. And then also I founded a new charitable organization called West African Conservation Network. We don't have a website yet because we haven't signed the deal that we're trying to sign with the Nigerian authorities, but that deal is going to come. At the moment, we're doing some of the things that they have asked us to do, which is to incorporate locally. So we're in the process of doing that. Once that's complete, then we can start the real hard negotiations with the Nigerian authorities to help them in terms of wildlife conservation. So that's what I do.
That's an amazing, obviously, a portfolio that you have. Having a transportation business for a few years and obviously very successful as well, and starting a conservation non-charitable side as well. So the ultimate question is, what motivates you to do these things? What's driving you?
When I was almost 20 years ago, when I was in my very late teens, early 20s, about 20 years ago, I always knew that I wanted to do things that were beyond regular. But I had a friend of mine in the US and I was in the US at the time, most of the time anyway. He, at that age of a 20, 19, 20, he had created his own record production company, and he had a deal with the majors, and that inspired me a lot. So I wanted to do the same thing. I said, wow, this guy is just 20 years old, or 19 even he was, he has his own business, and he's doing great things. So I'm also going to go for it. And so that's where the journey started, and that's where the maneuvering to create my own path in business started, and that's it, and that's my inspiration. And I'm a very ambitious person. I don't know why, by nature, and so I went for it, and I'm very prone to take chances, So I went for it.
That's amazing when you say, right? So it's a trait that all entrepreneurs have. So if you're a true entrepreneur, not just entrepreneur because it's now a thing that everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, but if you're a true entrepreneur, you're the one who just goes for it and takes the chance, right? You just go for it and see what comes out from it. It's not like, oh, I'm going to think about it. Oh, what happens if I do this? Oh, what happens if I do this? Well, you might know both, but let's go and do it and see what happens, right? Because otherwise you're just thinking about it and it never happens.
Exactly. For me personally, I feel that the true entrepreneurship mindset is a character thing. It takes a certain kind of character. So you must be willing to take chances. You must be resilient by your very nature. You must be willing to take risks. So, if you have 30,000 pounds, you must be ready to risk 20,000 trying to start a business that you believe can work. You have to be persistent, and the work ethic has to be crazy. Most true entrepreneurs have to work very hard, and most of the times luck is not sufficient alone. Luck only comes to a few people. Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook was very lucky in many ways, but the regular entrepreneur has to work very hard, and is a tough grind from beginning. And then you have to be very ambitious, and you have to believe in yourself even when other people don't believe in you.
I love what you just said there. It's amazing as well. So you mentioned Mark Zuckerberg. And he is an amazing example in terms of obviously what he did. Although he got lucky, he got lucky because obviously he knew investors. Because of his background, he was already there. But the hard work was still there. Facebook, algorithms, and everything. It's his baby. It's that is not, if you're an easy thing to make. It still had to be made. Had to now persuade the investors to join in, persuade friends to join in, right? Because he wasn't alone in it. It's like what Steve Jobs had to do as well, right? He had to start with the crazy idea that everybody should be owning a computer well before Windows would try to come into the house, right? And it should be, Steve Jobs' dream was everybody should be able to have this computer and use it. And that's how it is. And you have to go out there, promote it. Yeah, if you have your money, you use it. But the best thing is that if you have an entrepreneurial mind, you will always look for opportunities which will move you forward rather than taking you back. A lot of people, when it comes to hard working, they might be putting in the work, but then they're not recognizing the opportunities that are coming up with those work that you are putting in. You might get along your journey, you might see someone who is able to help you to take maybe 2 more steps in the right direction where you were heading, or catapult your direction a bit more further down. It's to able to recognize opportunities which are around you as well. So what you're saying on it, we having to have open mind, I would say.
Exactly. I agree with you. And and that's that, having the opportunities, when you see the opportunities, grabbing them with both horns, and wrestling with the buffalo. You grab the buffalo with both horns, and you wrestle with it. Try to get the better of it so you can grow further. And that's it. I think that's the entrepreneurial mindset in a nutshell.
That's
Yeah.
amazing, and I love I love you use the horn and the bull, because when with the work I do with my clients, I always say, live life by your design. So you're designing your life, so you are grabbing life by both horns, and saying, not today, life. I'm in charge, and I'm gonna direct you
Ex-
where you're going, right? So that's amazing that
exactly.
we've aligned on that conversation already. In terms of your this charity non-charitable work that non-profit, sorry, that's come up now, was that something that was always in your heart that you would be be doing something like this, or is it something recently that evolved into that journey?
Yeah, I've been since childhood. I've been very passionate about wild animals. Um, you know, especially the carnivorous animals, especially lions. And when I was young, I used to read so much wildlife books. It was affecting my actual schoolwork to the annoyance of my parents. So I used to, go to the local library and, you know, read all these wildlife books and source wildlife books from other libraries. In those days, there wasn't any internet. And eventually I had read all the kid books in my local borough. So what they did is that they allowed me into the section of the library for the over 14-year-olds. I went there, I was reading adult wildlife books, particularly on lions. So it's a passion I've had for a very long time. And then as I, in within the past 10 years, inspired by some of the things I see in South African wilderness conservation. My parents are from Nigeria originally, so I wanted to see if we could replicate similar model in Nigeria. So I had some contacts in Nigerian wildlife. I tried to create a team of people so that we can go ahead and execute the kind of conservation projects that we see in Southern Africa, in Nigeria. But unfortunately, the team of people that I kept putting together, it wasn't what it kept falling through. So last year, after the latest assemblage of team, we had differences, creative, competitive differences. I just said, you know what, I've had enough of this. I said, I'm going to go alone. Why am I trying to, work with other people? I'm going to try and do it myself, and I'm going to try and do it with the right kind of support that I think I need. And that's what I did. I went ahead and incorporated the organization myself, and I got the right kind of people behind me, backing me. Some really important people that are highly respected in their field, people that have incredible track record, people that I'm sure I'm going to learn so much from, backing me for the new project. And yeah, we're waiting for the process to gradually evolve and for us to, get our foots on the ground and see if we can save some Nigerian and West African wildlife, lions, leopards, buffaloes, and also help surrounding rural communities to benefit from these areas.
I mean, I love it. It's amazing that and it's also very rare nowadays to find people setting up these charitable companies, because not for profit organizations as well, because everybody is so busy into what they need to achieve, what they need to do, trying to put the food on the table. But it's amazing to hear that restoring faith in humanity is there. That we have people, the likes of you, who also want to help the animals as well, the voiceless at the moment, that give them the voice that, okay, this is what's needed to help them. And I know I hear lots of coaching stories coming from Africa to be sold for, on various different things. They get trafficked around the world. So there's lots of stories out there. It might be great if you're starting and your act becomes so big that it gets talked about, right? So who knows? That's the next thing can happen, even though you're not thinking of it, but it can start from very small and becomes huge. I'm sure your ones at the moment will be one of a kind that you're gonna be launching it there in that way. In your entrepreneurial journey, what would you say that that everything? I'm sure that everything did not go right when you started your entrepreneurial journey, right? When you started your transportation business. So, with your hindsight now, if you get a chance to start all over again, what would you do different, or would you do everything the same again?
And I had many mistakes. I had many mistakes, and I spent time going to university. I have a university degree, and I came out, late 20s, just above my mid 20s out of university. And I think that took time. That took a little bit of time. I'm not saying that education is not important. Education is very important, but possibly what one could have done is that I could have started my entrepreneurship at 18, 19. There are people that have started like that, 18, 19 when they're very young, and then they gradually build themselves up. And by the time they're 40, they're really, really self-made. So then also, I think management of finances in the beginning wasn't as good as it is now. I wasn't taking certain things seriously initially when I first started, as I have been doing in recent time. Back before I even started my journey as a businessman, I used to think when I was still studying, I used to think that I don't need credit lines. I don't need to borrow money to grow. I'm just going to grow off the sales that I'm making, And then maturity changed that. And some of the experiences I had down along the line changed that. And, I realized how important credit lines are to be able to grow the business, to be able to borrow, to fund growth, to pay back, to build contacts with lenders, maintain good relationships with your lenders, so that they can always help you to scale up when you need to, and then you pay them back. So all those kind of things I didn't know in the beginning, and I think it delayed how fast I have grown. And nevertheless, I am growing, except for the issue that we're having recently with the pandemic. It's been a remarkable journey, but if I had been wiser, I think in terms of managing the finances, the credit lines, maybe I would be much bigger than I am today. Also, one of the things is that, when I first started in my 20s, when I first was starting out as an entrepreneur, I was teaming up with friends and so on and so forth to start organizations. And I found that, sometimes you team up with someone who is not exactly in the same place as you. They're saying it verbally, but their actions is showing that they're not putting in the work and so on and so forth. And you end up carrying the work yourself. And eventually the project fails because the other party or the other parties are not doing what they want to do. So one of the lessons that I've learned with business, I think it's always better if you can to go alone. Of course, I understand. Zishan.
Hey, we're back.
I don't know what happened,
I think the energies were too strong energies out there, so it's like network issues. Yeah, that's why I was telling me that we got poor network and it's been paused due to poor network. I'm like, what? So you were mentioning that, what you've learned from your journey.
Yes. So what I was saying is that I've learned to manage finances better. I've learned to take, relationships with lenders, funders very seriously, right? I've learned to, um, if you're gonna, I personally, myself, I prefer to do business to own organizations, found them alone, own them alone. I mean, when it comes to commercial profit-oriented enterprises, because my experience previously when I've tried to form partnerships, it didn't really work out. I'm not saying partnerships don't work. They do work. There are many examples of them working, but I think that partnerships increases the risks even further of it not really working out. Of course, the main reason why people form partnerships most of the time is to pull together resources, especially if you want to undertake a really big project, you know. So these are my experiences that have shaped the way that I conduct business today, you know.
That's
So
that's
yeah,
that's completely understandable, I guess, right? Because from the early conversation we were having as well, that when you're looking for these partnerships, or you come across, when at the early part of your entrepreneurial journey, you always look at your friends and families to start the businesses, right? Uh,
yeah,
and I personally usually say that's where the very wrong end, because even though they want to help you, so they are looking as an help, not actually partnershiping with you, being 50-50% or whatever you decided to do. They're not committed as what your commitment is. You need to be looking for another external person who is as committed as you are, because that person is also trying to create that future that you are creating at, and the level of commitment will be same,
hmm,
and the level of work will be same, because then you don't want to be feeling exhausted, and you don't want to be feeling that I'm the only one doing everything every time, and then the partnerships falls apart. Yes, it's good to have these financial partners who are like simul partners, and they look for return. Those things then have to be established right at the beginning of the journey, that how much contribution would come from them. Is it just finance, or is it just helping to actually hit the targets that I need to achieve, help me find what I need to find to move forward. What help I'm going to get from that partnership. You can have multiple partnerships in the company, but everybody has to do their role, right?
yeah,
And I can sense that when you started this, you had to create a system that worked for you. Is that correct?
exactly, of course, yeah. Um, you know, when I first started, if we're talking about Patrick Agri Transportation, I knew what I wanted to do, how I had the plan in my head. I knew how I wanted to execute it. And I was just going and trying to implement the plan. Some of the problems that I was facing was that sometimes the plan I had in my head, when I tried to execute the plan, it wasn't executing exactly how I expected it to execute. But because I was robust and resilient, I always found a way to, you know, even if it was failing, the plan that I was trying to execute was failing, I would find a way to combat that failure, or I would find a way to, resist that failure or come back from that failure, you know, to make sure that I stayed on course.
I love this as well. So it's amazing, because a lot of new businesses, when there's a statistics out there, a lot of businesses, in the first year of their journey, they disappear, and the ones who remain and go forth, it takes them another 2 years, then they disappear as well. So your first 3 years are the crucial years of your business. It's a make or break, right? Because resilience, you have to be resilient to move forward. And yeah, not everything will go in your way, even though the road was the smoothest road, because now you're the entrepreneur. You're gonna find all the potholes that are in that road will be all yours, right?
Exactly.
And you just need to now know that you're gonna come across double the amount of potholes that used to be on that road now, and they're all gonna fall on your journey now, and they're all gonna be there. how you gonna now maneuver your way through those puddles on your journey, and how you're gonna maneuver your way to get to the point that, okay, that now these puddles don't mean anything to you. You already know they exist, and they're like, yeah, whatever, we're just doing it. And that is a shift of being from an employee to an entrepreneur. Because if you have an employee mindset, you're not thinking that way. You're used to the comfort that work brings you. Everything is ironed out for you anyway. So that's why you never saw the pothole, even though you are walking through them, you're navigating the pothole. But the business that you're working for had already done that for you, so that is seamless for you, right? Because there is a solution for all the potholes that you're going to come and see, right? So you're like, oh yeah, I'll use this solution, I'll use that solution. Oh, I've got this support coming to me for that. But when you're on your own journey, you're your own entrepreneur, your own boss, you need to shift that mentality of like, okay, there's nobody who's going to actually help and support me. It is all on me, and me, I am the business. So if I am going down, everything is going down, right? Yes. And that mindset is the shift that gets you going. And you'll be let's say you'll be drowning, but you're going to be looking for a way to come back up.
Exactly. Many people, they give up at the first hurdle. There are many people who say, oh, we want to do this, we want to do that, I want to build my own thing. And then as soon as they run into a challenge or a difficulty, they say, oh, they find an excuse and they pack it in. And their dream dies with that packing it in, right?
Exactly. So that goes to what you were mentioning earlier, right? So that you will find people who are connecting with you and working with the partnership, but then you'll find out later in the journey that they're not on the same wavelength. They are not as committed because it's not really what they want. They are talking the talk, but they're not walking the walk then, right? So they are saying, yes, I want this, but they're what I say is a lot of people start their business for the wrong reasons. And when you have the wrong reasons, it's never going to happen, because the thing you're after is not going to come straight away, right? So it's like planting a tree. Let's say planting an apple tree in your garden. You're not going to get your apples straight away in a month or 2 months. It's going to take you at least 6-7 months to a year before you are able to actually see an apple that you are able to eat from it, right? Because you have to look after it. It will grow. Let's say if you pour a seed in that soil. And that's how the businesses are. And if people think of it that way, that you are starting something new, does not exist, you are the one creating it, you are the creator of it, how are you going to now nourish it? And that's what you are going to see it at the end. And that's what the fruit is, a lot of people don't see it that way. They just go in, oh yeah, I'm going to be rich, I'm going to have all this, laptop lifestyle, I'm going to start traveling, I'm going to do this. Well, you can do all that, but what are you going to give to get that? Right?
Exactly. Exactly. Maybe I don't even know if I should bring this on air, but I had some years ago, I had like my ex-partner, we were living together, and she always used to tell me, oh, I want this handbag, I want that handbag, 2,000-pound handbag, 3,000-pound handbag. I want to do this, I want to do that, and then, but I was working very hard. Whenever I go out and, I go to work, I'm doing 12-hour days, 14-hour days, she'd be complaining. I'm like, look, you want 2,000-pound handbags, you want 3,000-pound handbags. Where is the money going to come from? Is it going to come from, you think, is it going to grow on trees? Or do you think someone is going to come through and give you, 2,000-pound handbag and get you your Mercedes or whatsoever? Someone has to work for that money, and it's not, somebody has to make real money for that kind of expenditure that you want, so it's crazy. But yeah, I mean, I thank God that, I think the way that I do, I'm driven, I'm very focused, very ambitious, and I've been able to do some things that I'm quite happy with. You know, I wouldn't say satisfied yet, but I'm happy, and I'm hungry for more.
That's all it matters, right? So that you have to be happy, and you have to be hungry for more anyway. Because if you're satisfied, yeah, there's no difference between yourself and the person who's doing working for somebody else, right? Because they're both kind of like, okay, done. I've reached my peak. This is it. What's on TV? Can I watch Netflix now and have ice cream or drink a bottle of wine or whatever, right? So. To me, I find that very difficult to adjust myself, right? So, because for me, when I do those things, right? Okay, yeah, let me watch Netflix for some reason. We hardly watch TV anyway in our household because everyone's busy. We all workaholics, so to speak, right? Just because we are creating what we need to create, exactly as what you mentioned, right? That 2,000 pound handbag is not just going to appear out of nowhere. If I want a fancy car in my driveway, I need to put the same amount of energy, work from myself for it to be there, and then sustain it. Because after that, once you get that, you have to sustain it as well, right? It's not about just getting it and then it's gonna be with it. So you have to then sustain it. So when you get that bag, when you get that car, you don't have to sustain it. The car will take fuel. You need the right amount of money for that fuel, right? It's not going to be a cheap fuel as well because it's going to drink. It's going to drink it, right? Right? That's going to drink. So even going to your supermarket or Tesco to just show off, or like a 10-minute drive, that's going to drink a lot of petrol, and you will get like fuel, and then you're going to think, okay, right? So, and that's why when a lot of houses that I drive past quite often, I always see, they have some sort of a sports car, but it's always parked at the same point, never moved. Right? If I'm driving on my same route, I will see few sports cars, few houses, but they never move, right? And they're always there. And I would probably see them move once in a month. I'm like, so what was the point of getting that and parking it in front of your house when you're actually not enjoying it, right? For me, what matters most is, right, you create your lifestyle that you want to create, whether that's becoming an entrepreneur, becoming your own boss, there's nothing wrong with working 9 to 5 and working for somebody else, because everybody has, is what they do. But it's live your life by design in terms of being happy of what you have. And then if you want more, what are you going to do to get that more, and how are you going to sustain it, right? So that's what it is to get more. There's a lot more out there for everybody to take, right? It's available if you are grabbing those opportunities. Grab the opportunity, but then sustain it so that you don't fall back. Because and that's when everybody like, that's very difficult to do. I'm gonna go back to my blanket, right, the comfort blanket that I had, and sit on my sofa for another 5 hours, whilst I'm watching Instagram and watching Netflix. And the successful person that is successful entrepreneur, like my heroes are, you've got Richard Branson and Elon Musk. They're regular guys. At one point, they were just like you and I. Yeah, they had opportunities which they grabbed at very earlier on in their life, and then they rocketed themselves with that, right? And at the moment now as well, Elon Musk, started with Tesla. Everybody was against it. Well, no electric cars. Electric cars been around for a very long time, but they've never been successful. They've always been failing. But Elon was like, no, I'm gonna take it to the next level. And everybody was like, it's a lost cause. It's been around for a while. It's not succeeding. They're funny looking cars. And Elon was, no, I'm going to make it sporty. Going to look like that. Everybody wants one. And it's that case now, right? Everybody wants one. And now he's like done that. What do I do next? I'm going to go to Mars now. And now he's building rockets to go to the Mars. And so forth. Richard Branson along the same line. He started so many companies with the brand Virgin because he was a lot into his music. So he did music company. He did. Now he's into his cruise ships and also going to space with his Virgin Galactic. So all these people move on to this. They're not stuck into one thing. When you become successful in one thing, all right, this is successful. You build a system that then manages it and runs it, right? You hire people, employ whatever you need to do. You build that system. Now everything is running on automation. That's going to sustain itself. What can I now build new? Right? Because we never want to be just comfortable in that one thing. Because this pandemic has taught us that already, that whatever's if something goes wrong and that business gets hit, what are you going to do? What's your safety net, right?
Exactly. Exactly. It's true. It's true. I look up to Richard Branson very much as well. Elon Musk, you know, I'm very brand conscious, so I'm inspired by, sometimes I'm just wondering, you know, Ford, you know, how did this guy start like in 1903? And look, this is 2021, and his brand is still big. You know, the
Exactly.
same with, yeah, I mean, just names like that. I mean, Samsung, Chrysler, people who their brands outlived them and is named after them. When I first started my company, now the current company, people would sometimes make funny remarks and say, "Oh, you started a company that was named after you." I said, "Yeah, why not?" They say, "Why? Yeah, why?" I said, "Yeah, there are many people, many global brands today that we know that is named after someone, you know and then sometimes they'll say, "Oh yeah, but your name is an African name. It's not gonna do well. People are gonna discriminate. They're not gonna know how to say it." I said, "Yeah, but do you think 100 years ago here in the UK that British people knew how to say uh, Toyota,
Right,
even
that's correct. Yeah,
Honda,
yeah.
even Nissan, even we're even still struggling with saying Hyundai? Is it
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hyundai? Is it
There's
Hyundai?
what's the brand called? Hyundai, yeah,
Hyundai,
Kawasaki. All these
Kawasaki.
Japanese and Chinese brands, right? Korean brands
Exactly,
now as well.
exactly. Mitsubishi, you know, how, those are brands that are global. So, you know, I would always say, listen, I think you can sell any name. You can make any name. If your product is good, if you're consistent, people are going to get used to saying the name. I mean, there's a restaurant chain over here in the UK called Wagamama.
Yes.
Yep, right? People are going to Wagamama. That's not a British name. you know. So, and yeah, I think it's not a bad idea to start an organization and name it after you. I mean, it's not a bad idea to start an organization and name it whatever you want to name it. But I think that if you start an organization and name it after yourself, there's nothing wrong with that. The richest man in Africa today, a Nigerian guy, his organization is named after him. Everyone who is into business in Africa has heard of Dangote. It's a Nigerian name. It's a northern Nigerian name, you know. So so that's the way that I think, you know. That's my mindset.
That's amazing actually, because again, the work ethics that pushes that brand out, right? So being brand oriented, you are, as I was mentioning earlier, you are your own company, right? You are
Yeah,
the business. So why not have it under your name? And then if you're pushing the brand the way you want to be known, everybody's gonna say that, right? So they have no choice, no choice, right? What's the company called? This is what's called. Oh, okay. But difficult to say that. Well, this is how you say it, and you're done,
exactly.
right? You have to learn it because you're gonna be using it at one point,
Exactly.
right? Um, so all these, I mean, a lot of people say that branding is not the forefront of businesses nowadays. But I still say, you still need to have a pillar in your business which concentrates on the branding side of things whilst you are still getting the system for your business running, because branding is where you stand out. And I love the designs you have for logo, because it's already, it reminds me of like Chrysler. In the beginning I was like, is that Chrysler logo? you know
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
I thought of a car because already it was a transportation. I was like, is that Chrysler logo? But it's not. It's just like, if you look at it on a quickly, and I was like, oh, okay, it just resembles that, but it's obviously completely different. So what was your thought behind that logo of yours then?
The first logo that we designed, the first logo before this logo evolved when we were called Patrick Hegwe Executive. This that we had a different logo. The font was the same. The reef, on the edge was the same. The shape of the badge was different. Inspiration for my logo, believe it or not, was when I was in America. You know, I had a Cadillac. Yeah, I had a Cadillac STS, 2007 Cadillac STS, and that is where the inspiration from the logo came. You know, that's where the inspiration. I remember the first time that I got the car in the US. I used to see the car on the road, but I wasn't 100% sure of the car, of the quality. And then when I drove the Cadillac, I fell in love with the car. You know, the everything. You know, it was just like an American. It was just like a Mercedes. I asked my uncle. I said, "What do you think of this car?" He said, "Are you kidding me?" He said, "Cadillac is like Mercedes Benz to Americans." And
It's
that's
amazing.
where,
It's an
yeah,
amazing car. Yeah.
yeah, and that's where the inspiration for the design came from. That's where the kind of influence.
That's
You
amazing because to see the inspiration, how many years ago that was there, right? And then it came to you for your business to design a logo, and hence, I mean, I thought of Chrysler anyway. That's an American brand, right?
That's an American brand, but different brand. Yeah,
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 exactly. So for me, because of the reefs at the end, was like, oh, is it Chrysler? Because I love American cars myself. There was a time I was very, hugely influenced by those American cars, and now not so much because I'm just too busy to pay attention to those things. At the moment, any car will do to me. I just need to get to A to B. That's
yeah,
it, fine. But yeah, for myself, ideally, I probably will end up with some American car at the
yeah.
end when I'm like, yeah, now I need to look after myself. I've made everything that I need to make. Well, in terms of like, it's running itself, the system is running it. So let's go and travel the world, grab a car that I can roll around with, and it'll not just be parked outside my house. It will actually go places, and then there'll be time I will grab an American car and bring it here.
Right. Okay. Interesting. You know, actually, the next cars, because I'm building a fleet for the business, right? So I own a couple. I own a few cars myself already, but I wanted to put in some more orders at the end of this year. But because of the way things have gone, I haven't put in any order. I'm not going to put in any orders because business has suffered immensely because of the pandemic. But I'm hoping next year, if things can recover towards the end of next year, I want to put in some orders. And when you were talking about Elon Musk, how people were laughing at electric cars and so on and so forth. Actually, the next few orders, I'm hoping next year, by the end of next year, if we can start recovering by the end of this year, by the end of next year, maybe I'll put in an order for 3 vehicles or 4 vehicles, and they're going to be all electric. And that will be my first fully electric vehicles ever driven, or I've ever owned. But they're going to be all electric. We're doing that anyway because Transport for London is forcing us to.
I
You
was
know,
gonna say, that if you're coming in and out of London, you have to soon change anyway. And they're trying to eradicate diesel anyway. It was said by 2040. Sorry, I'm not too sure if it's still the same.
2030.
It's 2030 now. Oh
Yeah.
wow, okay. Because I own myself a diesel, so yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like I'm thinking, like, yeah, there'll be a time that this has to go anyway. But until that time is here, so I'm not too far away from Wimbledon. So I'm in Wimbledon side of the London, so I can just cruise around on the London way. I don't have to pay any charges for it at the moment,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
come back. But if I need to go send, I mean, being in London, people don't drive a lot anyway because you can just take the tubes.
Mhm.
Everything is distance, and you walk everywhere.
Yeah.
With that in mind, I mean, your entrepreneur journey and your the conservations for animals that you've also are doing. What's the focus of those conservation that you're going to start? I know you're going to be building it so that you're able to not just lions and everything, all the animals in the West Africa side of things. So Nigeria being the hub for it, is that what is at the moment in the mind?
Yeah. So what is in my mind is that what I want to do is we want to go into protected areas uh, and uh, basically help the authorities protect those areas um, and restore as much as possible these areas to what they would have been 150 years ago, 200 years ago. So, for instance, in most parts of the world, or in many places in the world, you know, if you go into a protected area, wilderness area, for instance, I don't know, do you know any famous wilderness areas in Africa? Maybe Serengeti or Masai Mara, or I don't know.
I've
Do you
heard
know
of
any?
Serengeti, yeah.
Okay, Serengeti is really famous in Tanzania. I don't know what the exact situation is there, but in most places in the world, in Nigeria included, and throughout much of West Africa, if you do an itemized listing of the larger of the mammals that used to exist there 100 years ago, and you look at what still exists today, you would find that maybe a few species, maybe 5% are missing. In some places even more. In some places it depends on how well the place is protected. In some places 50% of the original species are missing. If you look at the UK, for instance, the United Kingdom in general has lost a lot of its charismatic wild animals. So what the new organization that I created, what we want to do is we want to go into protected areas. We want to help protect those areas, especially in African countries where resources are thin on the ground. We want to go in and help the authorities by equipping the rangers, helping rangers with payments, helping them with the infrastructure, helping maintain infrastructure, you know, putting in cameras to see what is still available, which species over time you'll be able to see which species are still available because they would stumble across the camera and the camera would take pictures of them without them knowing. Do you understand what I mean? And then um, if there are some species that are missing, you can work with partners to reintroduce those species. You know, you want to make sure that these areas are very well funded. You want local communities to benefit from having good wilderness areas around them. You know, if you have a good wilderness area, uh, it can create jobs. You can use it as a catalyst to kind of support local communities economically. Because, you know, when you go to most African countries, Nigeria included, the rural communities are living in abject poverty, governments being largely absent in their lives. So if you can go in there and have a viable wildlife project, you can use that to empower the people economically in terms of infrastructure. You can help them build schools. You can help provide security, and then they begin to understand the importance of having a wilderness area with plentiful wildlife that's attracting lots of tourists, so that money can be raised to help support those communities. So that's what we're looking at. So if we're able to succeed with that in Nigeria and then push it into other West African countries and succeed, then we can start going to other parts of the world where they need help, be it in South America or Asia or other parts of Africa, even in Europe, and say, look, we have a track record. This is what we've done over the course of 30 years. That's how we've helped these governments manage these areas. So we can work with you guys to help you guys restore this particular area. So that's the kind of organization that I hope I've given birth to in 2020.
And I love it. I mean, I love the inspiration behind it. It's amazing, and it's a huge project. I can as I'm been listening, and it's a great project as well. I mean, in terms of itemizing the wildlife that you have there. So I mean, yeah, some have lost up to 50% in some places. That's astonishing to know that yeah, because a lot of people don't look at that right, and they forget what was there, and now only read in the books that used to be there. and become extinct. So if you are able to save that, preserve the natural as it is, and if some things are able to reintroduce, yes, why not? It's an amazing project, and obviously I wish all the success to it, and I'm sure we will stay in touch and to follow each other and see your journey through it.
Yeah.
Something that we should be wrapping this up soon, and what would you want to give one advice to an entrepreneur, who's started their journey through this pandemic that's just happened last year, and we still getting the brunt of it still. Even the UK is opening up. A lot of places around the world are still in lockdown or some sort of lockdown or some sort of crisis still going. So what would you suggest to an entrepreneur who's now starting to do this, come out of their shell and want to do something? What would you suggest to them personally?
Well, I think that, of course, now that we have the pandemic in place, is much more difficult than even during normal times. But I think anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur has to understand from the beginning that entrepreneurship is not easy. Is one of the hardest jobs in the world, especially in the beginning. But it's very rewarding. So you have to be determined, work hard, believe in yourself. Don't allow what other people are saying to dissuade you, even family members who are dissuading you without mean and not out of malice, but they're just concerned for you. If you believe in if you believe in yourself, you have to go out there. And it's good to start young. It's good, I would say it's best to start in your 20s so that you have sufficient time to make all the mistakes that will be made along the way and recover from them.
I love this. I would love to add something on that, because my journey has been to help young entrepreneurs. And when I say young entrepreneurs, I am saying from the age of 11 onwards, because kids already start seeing what to do with money at home already, right? So they are already learning these things, how they should go about their life, what they should do, and when it comes to becoming an entrepreneur, it's best to start as early as possible. I know you mentioned 20s. 20s should be the time you are out there actioning it, right? If you start by the time you're, let's say, 11 onwards, by 11 onwards, you're just trying to understand. And, entrepreneur for an 11-year-old, what's an entrepreneur for them? Is maybe just building the things they love building. And then, hey, I want to sell that for, let's say, I don't know, you love building some sort of Lego things, right? So there are so many things that you can get from Hobbycraft to put stuff together and put on stalls that you get Christmas decoration, things like that, right? That gives you already an idea of what entrepreneurial thing involves, because you have to put in that work, and then you are the one who's going to evaluate how much it should cost for someone to buy it from you, because it's your work, right? And it's your baby now that you've made. And then goes onwards to, like, when you're 15 and onwards, start looking at your inspirations, what you have, and in terms of opportunities which are available to a 15-year-old, whether that's from government. You've got a lot of support from the government here in the UK, and there's lots of funding available to start businesses for 15-year-olds and or over to do so that as well. So, but the only way you would know all these things is if you're in the right mindset prior to that. And you would never know that you have all this funding available to you to start a business and then pay once you become successful, right? But people would rather go and take a loan for uni and pay when they get a job. I would say, there's nothing wrong with education, but I would say go and become an entrepreneur as early as possible, because you are in the prime age of making all the mistakes, because you have as very less responsibilities than you will have in your 20s. Right? By the 20s, you will be worried about rent. You'll be worried about mobile phone bills. You'll be worried about some sort of bills and all these things that you have to pay. Whereas at the earlier age, you have a blanket that can support you, and you will have a network that will guide you as well. I know, parents and siblings and all this, they come from a place of loving, that they say, oh, don't do this, do that, do that. They tell you, be cautious. It comes from a place of loving, but what that does is that actually destroys the child's future that they could have had. I I'm like I will say a big advocate of that in terms of right to start as early as you can. But I already help entrepreneurs from the age of 11 onwards. So my daughter's 13 now. She's got her own website, and she, just like you now, because she started by the age of 11, and she was making lip balms and these all those girly things that she was making and selling it to friends, earrings and things like that, right? Because she was making all these things. She's spending all that time to create these crafts and all that stuff, and that's great. And her family members were picking it up. You were giving it away on Christmas presents and things like that. I was like, okay, why not? Let's put it on the website and see who else wants to buy it, right? It's quite good. So she's like, oh, okay, I will make some money. I'm like, yeah. And then you do what you want to do with money. So in the beginning, she spends the money. Then I start showing her the, a little bit of management side of things on the money, right? Okay, so if we spend more money back to the business, you are able to scale up. Now she's scaled up quite big. And what I notice is now, and she's similar journey like yours now, she's now looking after trying to help the bees. Because along the way with the products she was using, she came to a research that those products were harming the bees, and the numbers of the bees are declining year by year, month by month. And if the bees are gone from this well, humans only have 4 years to live. I had no idea any of this, and now she's full of it. She's got her own Instagram page where she's educating people about bees and what to do, what not to do, and how to help and keep bees in our environment, not run away when you see a bee, because it's not trying to do anything. It's just looking for a flower to sit down and get the nectar from, right? And so that's all these things will start very earlier on. And by the time you're 20, you will be established like your friend is, who had the record company by that time.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's true. I agree with you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time today and sharing all these golden nuggets with everybody. I'll try to put these 2 episodes together. I know we had a glitch in the middle. I'll try to do that as soon as I can. It probably will happen by the end of today or tomorrow. And then put it back up on my IGTV and give you one as well to share it. People who are watching this, I would recommend to share this with as many people as you can, because it's our duty to, share the knowledge that we come across, because we don't know who just woke up this morning and said to themselves, I wish I could have something better than what I have now. And we've shared a lot of conversation here, golden nuggets, that might just change their decision of what they are thinking about to do now.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
So with that, 100%. Thank you very much. And we will see you next Tuesday for a different person, for whoever's watching. Thank you very much, Patrick.
No problem.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.